Hello, everybody. So nice to see you. Welcome to the revolution. My name is Faz Shakir. I am honored to be the campaign manager for Bernie Sanders' presidential run. We got a simple mission here, and it is to finish the job from what we started in 15 and 16. So many of us gathered together to fight for this cause. And now this time, in 2019 and 2020, the goal is simple, and that is to win. To win. And we are building a campaign that is architected from the bottom up, designed to win from the very beginning. Everything that we are doing right now is building a strategic campaign that will deliver that end result. And I am proud to report to you that the status of our campaign is strong and growing stronger because of the work that so many of you have done to put this together. So from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of Senator Sanders' heart, thank you for everything that you're doing to make this a successful campaign. The stakes for this democratic nominating process could not be greater, because at the end of it, we have to select a candidate who will defeat Donald Trump. Defeat Donald Trump. And we believe strongly on this campaign that Bernie Sanders is the best positioned candidate to defeat Donald Trump. And why do we believe that? Well, certainly the polls are telling us that, right? Head to head, the data matters, so numbers matter. But there's a reason why the numbers are reflecting that. Because Bernie Sanders' campaign attracts some core constituencies to the traditional Democratic constituency. The first group is what I call the disaffected voter. People who are now independents, people who used to vote Democratic, people who have checked out of the process. They are going to be brought back in to this campaign, and they're going to be inspired by the Senator Sanders campaign, right? The second group is what I call the youth voters, young voters, people who may be voting for the first time ever, who are young, who are idealistic, who are hoping for the change that they have been seeking when they entered into this nominating process. And I think that they are going to see in Senator Sanders, and track record proves it, they are going to come out and vote in droves. And when they do, you're not only going to have Senator Sanders winning the White House, my friends, you are going to see a wave up and down the Democratic ballot. That is what we are fighting for, okay? The stakes of defeating Donald Trump are huge. I mean, it has been an exhausting and difficult 3 years under this president. Am I right? Yeah. Exhausting and difficult. I mean, to some of the most vulnerable people in our community, he has said, we want to ban you, detain you, deport you, surveil you, separate you, call you guilty without due process, take your land and water and build an oil pipeline through it, take your land and water, build a border wall through it, tell you can't serve in the military if you're trans, take away your health care, and oh, by the way, if you're a woman, make your health care decisions for you and stop you from voting. It's been exhausting. And we knew he campaigned as a racist, he campaigned as a misogynist. Guess what? He's governing as a racist and a misogynist. But remember what he campaigned on economic issues? He campaigned as fake Bernie Sanders. He went around telling everybody that, oh, I'm going to cut prescription drug costs. I'm going to fight for fair trade deals that are going to be good for the working people. I'm going to drain the swamp. I'm going to take on big institutions in corporate America like Goldman Sachs, right? That's what he talked about. And then what did he do? He stacked the deck for the wealthy by delivering a tax cut that inordinately makes them richer. He stacked the government full of lobbyists and industry executives to dole out special interests and special favors, right? So how do you beat phony Bernie Sanders on economic issues? You deliver real Bernie Sanders. Friends, this is a grassroots campaign. This is a grassroots campaign, and this is one that is driven by people power. It is the lifeblood of how we operate. And you may be asking me, Faz, you're the campaign manager for a people power movement. What's it like? What does it change the way you operate as a campaign manager? And I would say, thank you for asking that question. Let me offer you a couple of thoughts on that. So as a people powered movement, the first thing that I think about every single day is we have to be a cost-conscious campaign. We are ever cognizant and aware that so many of you gave $20, $30, $40 to fund this campaign, and we have to be diligent and respect the money that is coming into this campaign. We govern that very closely and watch it very closely. Secondly, as a people-powered movement, one word that sticks in my head every single day, we're a community. We're a community. We gathered here as a community to know one another, to talk to one another. But you see that not only do we talk to one another, we seek your ideas on this campaign. We encourage you to let us know, what ideas do you have that we can best communicate to the American public? In addition to that, we lift your stories up. So when you go onto Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and you see the videos that this campaign puts out, they are your stories. When you see us putting out podcasts from this campaign, they are a collection of your stories. So it's really important that we think of this as community building. And the third thing about being a people-powered community is that we have to empower you. Empower you. And what we're talking about today is rolling out an online tool that gives you the power to be an ambassador for this campaign, to go out and recruit others to join into it, to identify people who should be registered to vote, who need to request a Democratic primary ballot in certain key states, who need to know when the right deadlines are so that they get registered and get ready to vote. We can provide them that information if you do your job of helping us find people, bring them into this movement, connect with us. A movement that grows is a movement that wins. And that is what we're going to do together. We're going to win. Without further ado, I want to introduce to you the leader of our movement, someone who has waged a lifetime of fighting for the working class of America, someone who, when he is in the White House, will deliver the change we so desperately seek, Bernie Sanders.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a small but loud crowd. That's good. Exuberant. Let me pick up from what Faz began with. And I thank Faz for the great work that he is doing. We're going to win this election for a couple of reasons. Number one, the ideas that we are talking about, ideas that a few years ago you may recall sounded pretty radical, are now the ideas that the vast majority of the American people believe. All right, the American people understand, even though it's not talked about on television and not talked about in Congress, that America is not about three families owning more wealth than the bottom half of the United States. America is not about people working 2 or 3 jobs to pay the bills when 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. People understand that. 4 years ago, when we talked about raising the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour, you may recall, people thought we were nuts, too radical. Since then, 6 states have moved in that direction, and the U.S. House of Representatives is soon going to do the same. We've made progress. 4 years ago, when we said that public colleges and universities should be tuition-free, oh, Bernie, my God, what a radical idea. Communities, states all over America moving in precisely that direction, because we understand you can't make it into the middle class until you have a higher education, not just college, but for many people, the technical training they need to be carpenters and sheet metal workers and so forth. And when we said that it is a national disgrace that millions of our people are paying off unconscionably high levels of student debt, we were also attacked. But now all over this country, people understand how absurd it is that we are punishing people for the quote-unquote crime of getting a higher education, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 in debt. And when we said we were going to substantially reduce student debt, people said, well, Bernie, how are you going to pay for it? And what we say is we're going to pay for it the same way that Trump pays for giving massive tax breaks to the rich and large corporations. So if we can give $1.5 trillion in tax breaks to people who don't need it, don't tell any of us that we cannot afford to substantially lower student debt in this country. All right? So we are making progress on a number of issues, not least of all is a profound moral issue. 4 years ago, when I said that health care is a human right, we were told that's not what the American people want. That's not what the American system is about. Well, it turns out that all across this country, the American people are demanding health care for all as a human right and a Medicare for all single-payer system. So we are winning that fight as well. Now, as Faz was saying, what we understand is that this campaign is not just about winning the Democratic primary, and I think we got a good shot to do that. It is not just about defeating Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in the history of our country. And I think we got a good chance to do that. We talk about us, not me, because this is a very profound statement. What does it mean? It's not just a bumper sticker. What it means, and I believe this as somebody who's been involved in politics, been 13 years in the Senate, 16 years in the House, is that no president, not the best intentioned, not the most honest person in the world, no one person can do it alone. Now, why is that? Because this is what is not talked about in the media, not talked about in Congress. The power structure of America is such that a small number of wealthy individuals and large corporate entities have so much influence over the economic and political life of this country that no one person can do it. You think you're going to pass Medicare for all tomorrow because the President of the United States says that's what we should do? You think we're going to take on the fossil fuel industry and effectively and aggressively combat climate change because the President of the United States we should do that? You think you're going to take on the drug companies who are ripping off the American people right and left? Do you think we're going to take on the military-industrial complex and not spend $700 billion a year on the military? The answer is that the only way we bring about the change that this country needs is when millions of people stand up and demand it. That's the only way that change ever takes place. All right? That's the history of the civil rights movement. That's the history of the labor movement. That's the history of the women's movement. That's the history of the gay movement. That's the history of the environmental movement. Frederick Douglass talked about it, the great abolitionist. Real change never takes place without struggle. So it's not a president saying, gee, I have a great idea. Wow, I woke up yesterday, I think healthcare for all is a good idea. It's not the way it happens. It happens when millions of people stand up and demand it. So this is what this campaign is about. This campaign is asking for your help to win the primary, to beat Trump. But it is asking for something more. And that is, I will need your help the day after the inauguration. All right? We are going to have to bring millions of people into the political process. And when we do that, we can transform this country in so many respects. You know, at the end of the day, we talk about the wealth and the power, extraordinary power of the 1%. And that's true. That is absolutely true. You have billionaires who spend hundreds of millions of dollars to buy elections, large corporations shutting down in America to find cheap labor abroad, CEOs, you know, making tens and tens of millions of dollars a year, 300 times more than their workers make. All that is true. But at the end of the day, what do we know about the 1%? They are 1%. I may not be a great mathematician, okay? And I know I'm here near Harvard University. Got a little intimidated. But I did learn in elementary school that 99% is a hell of a lot more than 1%. Yeah. All right? Now, Republicans and conservatives win when they do a couple of things. Number one, when they are able to raise zillions of dollars from wealthy individuals. And as a result, as you know, of Citizens United, that's what's going on. So you got billionaires like the Koch brothers prepared to spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on a campaign. That is disgusting to me. That is un-American, and we're going to change that. But that is what they do. The other thing that Republicans do is they suppress the vote. They very intentionally want to make it harder for poor people, for people of color. Just came from New Hampshire. You know what they're doing in New Hampshire? Trying to make it hard for college students to vote, kind of putting a poll tax. It's been the history of America. Make it hard for women to vote. 100 years ago, women didn't have the right to vote. Struggle for African Americans' right to vote. And on it goes. The country began was only rich white guys voting. You all remember that, all right? And a lot of my Republican friends wish it were that way today. All right? So what this campaign is about is doing exactly the opposite of what Trump and his friends want to do. They want to divide us up by the color of our skin, by where we were born, whether we're native born, we're immigrant, you know, our religious background, our gender, our sexual orientation. We're going to do exactly the opposite. We are going to bring our people together, whether you're black or white or Latino, Asian American, Native American, gay, straight, native born, immigrant. We're all going to work together around an agenda that works for all of us. So what this campaign is about, and we don't have all the answers. You know, Faz doesn't have all the answers. We need your help. Is, for example, we saw some really good results in 2018 in terms of voter turnout. Half the American people voted. Well, that's good for a midterm election, but you know what? That's half the American people. Where the hell are the other half? All right? And most of that other half, by the way, are working people and low-income people, young people, people of color, people who are more likely to support our agenda. So one of the things that I'm asking you all to think about is help us register millions of Americans, get them involved in the political process. One simple fact, if people 29 years of age and younger voted at the same percentage as older people, we would transform this country. Because the younger generation is a very progressive generation. You're going to help me bring out young people, get them involved. A lot of working people, as Faz indicated, are kind of giving up on the political process. They're working 2 or 3 jobs, going nowhere in a hurry. Their kids are even worse off than they are. Get them involved in the political process, all right? So voter registration is a very important part of what we have got to do. And we're going to give you, I guess, an app which will make life easier. Just another simple ask. Every one of you knows 3 or 4 or 5 people who are sympathetic to what we believe in. Yeah, I like Bernie. I'm going to vote for him. I like what the political revolution is about. Have them get their names, get their phone numbers, get their email addresses. So put them into our system, all right? Here's a fact that should concern us all. Donald Trump has close to 60 million people on his Twitter account. Now, we are doing better, I believe, than any other Democrat. We have over 9 million. So how do we add millions of people to our social media? Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, other platforms. We need your help in doing that. If you are for example, active in the environmental community, reach out to people who believe, as we do, that we need aggressive action to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. Get involved, bring them into our political movement. If you're in the trade union movement, help your brothers and sisters understand that our Workplace Democracy Act will make it easier for workers to join unions as opposed to making it harder. If you are in the women's community, have people understand the strong role that we are playing in fighting for women's rights. The gay community, the same thing. If you're on a college campus, understand that we have led the effort to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and reduce student debt, and to address many of the issues that young people are dealing with. So here's the bottom line. We need to put together the strongest grassroots movement in the history of politics. And we're off to a pretty good start. We have 1.1 million people who have already signed online that they want to roll up their sleeves and work. What does that mean? It means not only social media, it means doing the old-fashioned stuff. Don't forget about old-fashioned stuff, you know. Maybe I'm old and I remember old-fashioned stuff. But knocking on doors, handing out literature, standing outside a factory gate, going to a farmer's market, talking to people. And we don't think in the national office that we have all of the answers. Trust me, we don't. Every person out there knows your own community better than we do. Can you put on a concert? Can you have a potluck event? Whatever it may be. Bring people together. Develop a sense of community. Reach out to people who might feel uncomfortable about being involved in politics. Bottom line is that on all of the key issues, the majority of the American people agree with us. And people are sick and tired of a handful of corporations and wealthy individuals controlling the economic and political life of this country. All right? So we've been in this campaign for about 2 months. We're doing well. I feel good about the future. I think we stand a great chance to go all of the way. But we cannot do it unless millions of people get involved in the political process. And I want to thank everybody. So let's do it. Let's run a historic grassroots campaign. And when we do that, the 1% can spend all of the money that they want. We're going to beat them.
Yeah.
Remember, it's not Bernie, it's us. Don't forget that. Us. All right. And that's true. I want you all to think that. I'm one person, so are you. And we all have our job to do. Now, I want to introduce somebody who I've known for many years. She is an American heroine. She is doing maybe the most important work that can be done. She has been traveling all over this country, getting people involved in the political process, people who have given up on the political process, people who are not familiar with what politics means and can mean. Please welcome Senator Nina Turner.
Wow, this is amazing. The senator he did that, per usual. He let us know, per usual, that only all that we love is on the line, that's all. And it is so vitally important that we continue to organize. And once we're done organizing, we must organize some more and some more and some more and some more, because nothing can defeat a conscious-minded, committed people from the rainbow mosaic of humanity on the move. And that is really what the senator has been talking about, not just tonight, but he talks about it all over this country. My God, he's been talking about it for years. We got all the receipts. He has been a consistent champion of the people. And that is a beautiful thing. His authenticity shines through. But one of the most important things about this campaign is that Senator Bernie Sanders makes it very clear that this is not about him. It's not just about his wife, Dr. Jane Sanders, or their children, or their 7 grandchildren, that this is about all of us and the people that we love. So all that we love is on the line. So we must continue to be committed to this. We got to put some sweat equity on this thing. Now, Senator Sanders will be the next president of the United States of America, but it's not going to happen because we wish for it to happen. It's not going to happen because we hope that it will happen. It's not going to happen because he does have the better ideas. He's asked us to dream bigger dreams. It is going to happen because we're going to put some sweat equity on this thing and help make it happen, because it's not about just me. It's not just about him. It is about all of us and all that we love. So we're going to get out there and make sure that Senator Sanders is the next president of the United States of America. So we must organize. You know, President Nelson Mandela once said, and I want you to wrap your mind around this, that it always seems impossible until it is done. If we think about what happened in 2016, Senator Sanders was the only champion out there saying that, yes, in this country, it is immoral not to have health care for all people. That folks shouldn't have to decide whether or not they can pay their rent or their mortgage or get their medicine, that as a moral imperative, we must have Medicare for all. And folks thought the senator that it was outrageous, even though every other industrialized nation on the face of the earth has it. He talked about college for all. As he often says, that students who are in debt for the crime of going to college, doing what their parents and their grandparents and what society has asked of them, and yet we burden them with that kind of debt. Yes, we must have college for all. He talked about the injustices in the criminal justice system. The fact that we must and we will do better in this country, that if you are black and you are brown and our Native American sisters and brothers, that somehow disproportionately you are represented in a system that has left you behind. All that we love, whether it's the environment. I remember in 2016 when he was on the debate stage and the question was asked of the candidates, what is the biggest threat to this country and to the world? And Senator Sanders said with sternness, climate change. Folks thought that he was being ridiculous when he said that. Fast forward, and now everybody is talking about how we have an obligation to take care of Mother Earth for ourselves and for future generations. Only all that we love is on the line. So no matter what brought you here, to the hundreds of thousands, millions of people all across the country and the world, thank you, Democrats abroad, organizing for this. No matter if it's criminal justice, income and wealth inequality, women's rights, the climate, voting rights, no matter what brings you to the place where you are in this country and in the world, just know that many hands make for light work. And that with these hands, we will have Medicare for all. So now I need everybody that is here with us tonight to raise one hand for yourself, one hand for yourself, and one hand for somebody else. And with these hands, we will have Medicare for all. With these hands, we will have college for all. With these hands, we will guarantee clean water, clean food, clean air. With these hands, we will have transcendence. And with these hands, we will elect Senator Bernie Sanders as the next president of the United States of America. Get out there and organize, and with these hands, change is coming.
For running and for everything you do to fight for working people. Now, who here is ready to elect Bernie Sanders as our next president? Amazing. So we want to talk to you for just a minute about how we can all do that together. My name's Clare Sandberg, and I'm the National Organizing Director on Bernie 2020.
I'm Young-Jung Cho, and I'm the Constituency Organizing Director.
And we're going to get specific with you about how you can start organizing for Bernie in your communities. But before we do, we want to take another moment to reflect on what a huge day this is for our campaign, and what it means about our ability as a movement to not just do better than anyone ever expected, but also to win. Right now, you're participating in the largest distributed day of action ever in a presidential campaign. Over 4,700 individual events are happening today all over the country and around the world. Hundreds of students are hosting events on their campuses. There are events in all 50 states and Puerto Rico and in 30 countries outside the US, from the United Kingdom to Senegal to Norway to Japan to Colombia. There are 839 events happening in California alone. Wherever you are, thank you so much for being a part of this historic day for our campaign and our movement. Many voices will attempt to diminish what we're building here together and argue that our movement has run its course. But the reality is that we grow larger every day. And if every person participating in this day of action becomes a volunteer, we will win the nomination for Bernie. We will defeat Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders will be our next president, and we will get to work transforming this country. But to get there, we need everyone participating today to do the critical groundwork in every community, and we need to get started now. We can't afford to wait 3 or 6 or 10 months anywhere. Winning this nomination and making Bernie president means going up against the political establishment, Wall Street, the fossil fuel industry, the health insurance industry, the military-industrial complex, and Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Those are a lot of powerful interests that will do everything in their power to stop a Bernie Sanders presidency. The only way we can defeat them is through people power, through hundreds of thousands of volunteers talking to millions of voters, one person at a time. Our strategy is simple. We are going to build the largest grassroots electoral movement in history to talk to voters. We're going to ask you to talk to people you know, your friends and neighbors, people you work or go to school with, people you see in your daily life. And we're also going to ask you to talk to people you don't know, voters in your community who you may meet on a busy street corner, at a county fair, in front of a subway station, or at their front door. We're going to ask you to listen to people, to their hopes and fears for our collective future. There are so many people who are afraid about the direction our country is headed in, but no one has ever asked them to share their concerns or their aspirations. You could be the person who changes that. And in addition to having conversations, as Bernie said, we want you to tell us who you're talking to. Because after you talk to someone and identify them as a Bernie supporter, or when they become a Bernie supporter after talking to you and sharing their story with you, we need to be able to follow up and make sure they're registered to vote and that they know how to vote and when to vote. That is how we win, by having powerful conversations where we listen and share stories, and then by doing follow-up work to make sure that every supporter turns out to vote or to caucus. Now, if you've ever volunteered for a presidential campaign before, you know that typically you only get the ability to start talking to voters in a systematic way if you live near a field office. If you don't live near an office, or if you live in a state that votes late in the primary calendar, you usually have to wait a very long time to be able to start having conversations with voters. But we want everyone to be able to get started right now. That's why today we're rolling out an exciting new app called, what else? Burn, to allow you to talk to voters and tell us who you're talking to, so that we can follow up with them and get them out to vote for Bernie. And you can create your own Burn account in just a few seconds by going to app.berniesanders.com.
Awesome, so let's do it. First, take out your phones, and if you don't have one, you can share with the person next to you, and open your phone's internet browser to app.berniesanders.com to create your account. You can do it on any device connected to the internet, and it only takes a couple of seconds. Again, that's app.berniesanders.com. So everyone should be there right now making your account, and once you log in, you'll see just how easy it is for you to tell us who you're talking to, both people you know into friend mode and people you don't know in community canvas mode. For the friend-to-friend mode, you can think about all the different relationships that you have. Your family members, your friends, childhood and school friends, your coworkers. Spend an uninterrupted 5 to 10 minutes to write a list of all their first names and last names and the city in which they live in. Brainstorm for as long as you can, because afterwards you'll want to search for everyone you listed in the Burn app. Because these people know your story and your motivations, they are more likely to trust you and vote for Bernie, thus making you the most effective messenger for these voters. Now you may also know an entire community of people. You might be the most effective person at convincing a group because you share an identity or an experience with. This can look like nurses, talking to other nurses and trusting them because they understand our broken healthcare system, because they've seen families go bankrupt while caring for the people that they love. Or immigrant parents like mine who are more comfortable speaking their first language and talking with other parents about immigrating to the US and finding a new home. Or people of the shared faith talking about how their values align with the vision of the political revolution. Or young people, like hundreds of young people right now who are gathered at organizing kickoffs on schools, connecting about what's at stake for our generation and organizing for a better future. So let's review. Our strategy is about talking to voters listening to what matters to them, and connecting by sharing our stories. It's about both talking to people you know and talking to people you don't know. Now, you can organize with other volunteers to go out and talk to people in your community, or use the app on your own to log conversations as you go about your daily life. Whether it's with friends or with strangers, you can meet strangers while you're waiting for the bus, or standing in line for a concert, or at the park and the coffee shop. Whenever you talk to a voter, we just want you to tell us who you're talking to using the app so that we can follow up with them and make sure that they are registered to vote, know where to vote, and however you're doing it, this comes down to how many people are willing to put in the work to build our grassroots movement. So do not leave these organizing kickoffs or watch this video without making an account on the app. And thank you all for taking these steps together. This is exactly how we're going to win. Let's get to work.